The setting sun painted golden streaks across the polished marble floors of the Sullivan mansion's modernist living room. Lawrence Sullivan stood motionless, his tall frame reflected in the same mirror where his wife, Patricia, was adjusting her dress. The red fabric clung to her curves like a second skin, the neckline plunging well below what any respectable corporate wife would wear to a merger announcement. Lawrence observed her with the same analytical precision that had made him one of Silicon Valley's most formidable CEOs. At 45, he still cut an imposing figure in his tailored charcoal suit. Years of martial arts training and disciplined workout routines had kept him fit, while building Sullivan Technologies into a cybersecurity empire had honed his mind into a weapon sharper than any blade. "You know how important tonight is," he said, his deep voice carrying the quiet authority that had become his trademark. "The merger announcement requires a certain level of professionalism. That dress sends the wrong message." Patricia's fingers lingered on the fabric, smoothing it over her hips with deliberate slowness. "It is always about your image, isn't it, Lawrence?" She reached for her lipstick, applying another layer of crimson. "God forbid I want to feel beautiful for once. Not everything revolves around Sullivan Technologies." The words hung in the air. Like poison gas, something was triggered in Lawrence's mind. As the CEO of the world's leading cybersecurity firm, he had built his career on detecting patterns. The smallest anomaly could indicate a system breach. Lately, the anomalies in his personal life had been accumulating. Unexplained absences that stretched beyond their stated duration, phone calls that ended abruptly when he entered a room, personal training sessions that always seemed to run late, credit card charges from hotels in the city where they lived, and new jewelry she claimed to have had for years. Instead of responding to her barb, Lawrence checked his phone. A message from Chris Berg, his head of security, confirmed what he needed to know. His private team was in position. He had hired Chris 8 years ago, recognizing in the former Special Forces operator the same ruthless efficiency he valued in himself. Where Lawrence was subtle steel, Chris was raw iron, effective, unyielding, and absolutely loyal. "I need to handle some things at the office before the gala," Lawrence said, adjusting his platinum cuff links, a 5th anniversary gift from Patricia that now felt like a marker of mockery. "I'll meet you there." Patricia barely acknowledged him, too busy with her preparation. Her indifference was new, or perhaps he was only now allowing himself to see it. As he left the room, he activated a secure line to Chris. "Begin Protocol 7, he ordered. "Full surveillance, no limitations. I want eyes and ears on everything." "Sir," Chris's voice held a note of concern. "That level of monitoring, it's unprecedented. The resources required, do it. You have complete authorization. And Chris, this stays between us." Lawrence descended the curved staircase of his home, past the family portraits that now seemed like elaborate props in a staged play. He had built this life on a foundation of integrity and family values. Sullivan Technologies wasn't just another tech company. It was a legacy he had intended to pass down to his children. Now, watching, his wife prepared for what she thought was a simple corporate gala, while he felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. His Tesla waited in the circular driveway, its black surface reflecting the sunset like obsidian. As he slid behind the wheel, another message from Chris lit up his secure phone. "Initial surveillance active. You need to see this." The Sullivan Technology corporate headquarters dominated the San Francisco skyline, its glass and steel structure a testament to Lawrence's vision. But tonight, he bypassed the executive floor for a secure room 3 levels below ground. Here, surrounded by monitors displaying multiple camera feeds, Lawrence watched his wife's calculated performance at the gala. Patricia had made her entrance 20 minutes ago, the red dress drawing exactly the kind of attention she had intended. She had immediately gravitated toward Herman Black, Lawrence's supposed best friend and COO. Through high-resolution cameras and directional microphones, Lawrence observed their interaction with growing coldness. "Come here often, stranger." Patricia's voice came through crisp and clear as she sidled up to Herman at the bar. Her hand brushed his arm in a gesture too familiar for comfort. Herman's fingers traced her waist, hidden from the crowd by the bar's position. "You're playing a dangerous game tonight, Pat." "That dress." "Lawrence still suspects nothing?" she whispered, leaning close enough that her lips nearly brushed Herman's ear. "The shell companies are in place. Once the merger goes through next week, everything changes. The accounts are ready. Herman's voice held equal measures of lust and greed. Everything's prepared. Sandy confirmed the last transfers yesterday. It's perfect. Lawrence is so busy protecting the company from external threats, he never thought to look inside his own home. Lawrence's fingers tightened on his desk as Chris entered with a tablet. The former operator's face was grim. Sir, our team. He has uncovered something far greater than a mere affair. You must see this. The evidence unfolded across multiple screens, each revelation more damaging than the last. The merger with Jared Norton's tech firm was not an expansion opportunity. It was an elaborate trap designed to hollow out Sullivan Technologies from the inside. Patricia was not merely sleeping with Herman. She was the central figure in a conspiracy that included Norton, Herman, and even Lawrence's own brother, Gua. There is more, Chris said, pulling up another set of files. Your daughter's recent behavioral issues, the declining grades, the rebellion, the sudden hostility toward you. We found evidence that Mrs. Sullivan has been deliberately sabotaging your relationship with both children. Surveillance footage played across the screens, Patricia and Kara conversing with Mandy's teachers, planting seeds of doubt about Lawrence's commitment to his family. Text messages revealed her manipulating situations, staging incidents designed to drive wedges between father and children. She had even gone as far as intercepting and altering messages between Lawrence and his son, Bill, at college. Show me everything, Lawrence commanded, his voice carrying the kind of deadly calm that precedes hurricanes. Every detail, every player, every angle. For the next hour, they pieced together a conspiracy that stretched back years. Patricia had not merely betrayed their marriage. She had orchestrated a complete infiltration of his life. The cameras continued to show the gala where she laughed and danced, celebrating what she thought was her imminent victory. The night stretched into early morning as Lawrence dove deeper into encrypted servers and hidden accounts. Each discovery was another betrayal crystallized in data, another crack in the foundation of trust upon which he had built his life. His brother, Gua, had been running ghost projects through the R&D department, siphoning millions through fake research initiatives. The money had been funneled into offshore accounts, meticulously concealed to avoid detection. The trail led to offshore accounts, carefully concealed yet not entirely invisible to someone possessing Lawrence's resources. Herman's betrayal extended far beyond the affair. He had been selling company secrets to competitors, using the illicit profits to fund an extravagant lifestyle that included regular trips with Patricia to private villas in the Mediterranean. Their affair was not a recent development. Bank records revealed shared accounts dating back 3 years. Patricia's role was perhaps the most insidious. She had methodically gathered compromising information on board members, constructing a blackmail portfolio that would have granted her control of the company after Lawrence's planned ouster. She had exploited her position as his wife to access confidential information, build strategic relationships, and sow seeds of doubt regarding his leadership. But Sandy, his sister-in-law, proved the most startling revelation. She had constructed an entire shadow company founded on stolen Sullivan Technologies patents, preparing to launch competing products the moment Lawrence was removed from power. Sir, Chris said, returning with another set of files, we've confirmed the timing. The dress tonight, it wasn't merely inappropriate. They're celebrating. The merger announcement was intended to mark the beginning of your end. They believe they've won. Lawrence stood and walked to the window overlooking the sleeping city. In the reflection, he could see the monitors behind him, Patricia and Herman sharing another intimate moment, his brother glad-handing investors, Sandy observing everything with a satisfied expression. Activate Protocol 0, he said, his voice carrying absolute finality. Chris did not conceal his concern. Sir, Protocol 0? The collateral damage will be extensive. Personal reputations, careers, families. They chose their fate when they targeted my children. Lawrence replied, turning toward him, his face illuminated by the city lights and the glow of the monitors. They didn't just attempt to steal my company. They tried to steal my legacy. Execute Protocol 0. Now, he could still see Patricia through the cameras, laughing with Herman, their hands touching beneath the tables, their confidence absolute. They had no inkling that Lawrence Sullivan had not merely prepared for cyber attacks. He had planned for everything. The first phase of Protocol Zero commenced at midnight. A cascade of encrypted locks securing company data, phantom account transfers, and the quiet activation of hidden contract clauses that would ensnare millions in legal limbo. By the time Patricia danced with Herman to what they believed was their victory song, Lawrence had already seized control of every shell company they had created. His most trusted assistant, Brooke, worked silently in an adjacent office, gathering evidence and securing his children's futures. Mandy, away at a friend's house, had already been contacted and protected. Bill's college accounts were transferred into secure trusts beyond Patricia's reach. Lawrence watched the final pieces fall into place, recalling Patricia's words from earlier. Maybe I want to feel beautiful for once. To him, she had never looked uglier than she did now, draped over Herman, plotting his destruction. The red dress, intended to mark her triumph, would instead become the symbol of her downfall. Dawn approached as Lawrence made his final preparations. While Patricia celebrated her imagined victory, divorce papers were being delivered to their home, accompanied by evidence of her crimes, carefully distributed to select board members. Lawrence Sullivan, the man she believed she had deceived, would be gone. But Lawrence Sullivan, the man who had built an empire on recognizing patterns others overlooked, would be very much alive and very, very angry. The night of the gala would not be remembered as the beginning of Lawrence Sullivan's downfall. Instead, it would mark the start of the most meticulously planned revenge in Silicon Valley history. The gala music pulsed through the grand ballroom of the St. Regis as Lawrence's plan unfolded with mechanical precision. In the precision-controlled environment of the building's secure server room, his team of cybersecurity experts executed complex protocols that would seal the conspirators' fate. Lines of code scrolled across screens as company data underwent military-grade encryption, while carefully crafted algorithms began transferring millions into phantom accounts. Through the surveillance feeds, Lawrence watched Patricia twirl in Herman's arms, her red dress a splash of blood against the white marble floor. Neither of them noticed when their phones briefly lost signal, the precise moment when their access to the shell company accounts was permanently severed. "Sir, Phase 1 is complete," reported his lead IT specialist. "All offshore accounts have been redirected. The phantom protocols are active." Lawrence nodded, his face illuminated by the blue glow of monitors. "Trigger the contract clauses." Brooke, his executive assistant of 8 years, worked methodically at her station. She had been gathering evidence for months, having noticed discrepancies in board meeting minutes and irregular patterns in company communications. Now she was ensuring every piece of documentation was properly secured and backed up on servers that only Lawrence could access. "Mr. Sullivan," Brooke said, looking up from her screen. "Mandy is secure. The security team confirmed she's chosen to leave with you. She's quite angry about what her mother did." A brief flash of emotion crossed Lawrence's face, the only one he had shown all night. His daughter had inherited his analytical mind. Once presented with evidence of Patricia's manipulation, the altered text messages, the staged conflicts, the deliberate sabotage of father-daughter events, she had made her choice with cold clarity. And Bill? The trust is established and funded. His college accounts are secured. He's protected, sir, though he doesn't know everything yet. We thought it best to wait until after his finals. Lawrence turned to Chris, who stood by the door. As Phase 2 commenced, Patricia danced and laughed under the illusion that she was celebrating her imminent triumph. Unbeknownst to her, Lawrence's team executed a sequence of meticulously timed operations. All corporate data was secured behind newly implemented encryption protocols. Millions in assets were lawfully transferred through prearranged channels. Hidden contractual clauses were activated, granting Lawrence control over the network of shell companies. Emergency board protocols were initiated, temporarily consolidating authority within the chief executive position. Surveillance data was safeguarded and duplicated across multiple secure locations. By midnight, as Patricia raised a glass of champagne among her co-conspirators, Lawrence had effectively seized dominion over every asset they believed they had stolen. The bitter irony of their revelry was not lost on him. They were toasting their own ruin. "The divorce documents are being delivered now," Brooke confirmed, along with curated evidence packages to select board members. Lawrence adjusted his tie and stood tall. "Distribute the remaining files as planned," he directed. "It is time." Before daybreak touched San Francisco, Lawrence Sullivan, the man they had presumed they outwitted, vanished without a trace. His disappearance was executed with the same precision that characterized all his actions. No trail, no evidence, no loose ends. Patricia's homecoming would serve as her first taste of this stark new reality. She would discover every account emptied or frozen, divorce papers delineating her infidelity and conspiracy, evidence of her crimes delivered into the hands of key board members, and her access to all company resources permanently revoked. The world she had so carefully constructed was beginning to fracture. The first signs of collapse emerged at dawn. Herman Black stood in his private office, staring in disbelief at his computer screen. Every offshore account had been drained. Years of meticulously concealed funds had vanished. His phone buzzed incessantly with alerts. Access denied. Transfer failed. Account suspended. "What the hell is happening?" he shouted into the phone. Every pretense of polished sophistication gone. "Fix this." There was nothing to rectify regarding the money. It had not been stolen, but rather legally reclaimed through an intricate web of contracts and clauses so complex that his lawyers were already suffering from headaches. Across town, Wes Sullivan watched as federal auditors marched into his department, carrying boxes of documents. These contained detailed records of every ghost project, every fraudulent transaction, and every fake research initiative he had used to embezzle millions. His attempt to call his sister-in-law, Sandy, went straight to voicemail. Sandy had problems of her own. Her parallel company, built on stolen Sullivan Technologies patents, faced not just litigation but complete annihilation. Emergency injunctions had frozen her assets, and cease and desist orders arrived by the dozen. Her technical team reported that critical data had simply vanished. But it was Jared Norton who broke first. The veteran tech executive recognized a lost cause when he saw one. He reached out to federal investigators with an offer, evidence of Patricia's involvement in industrial espionage in exchange for immunity. His betrayal was quick, complete, and self-serving. Exactly what Lawrence had predicted. Patricia's fall was particularly spectacular. Her society friends, who had once competed for her attention, now would not return her calls. Claudia Martinez, Lawrence's corporate counsel and a pillar of San Francisco society, led the social exodus. The same people who had admired Patricia's red dress at the gala now whispered about her disgrace at charity functions. "I don't know what you're talking about," Herman declared publicly when asked about their relationship. Mrs. Sullivan was simply another board member's wife. "These accusations are ridiculous." He had thrown her under the bus so fast it left skid marks. Watching him deny their relationship on live television, Patricia finally understood she had been played for a fool, not by Lawrence, but by her own co-conspirators. Time became Lawrence's greatest weapon as his enemies unraveled. He had anticipated immediate destruction, yet he delivered something far more devastating: a slow, systematic dismantling of their lives. Like a master chess player, he had set in motion moves that would unfold over years. His downfall came first. Over the course of 18 months, Lawrence's algorithms orchestrated what appeared to be a series of unfortunate market crashes. Each one targeted his brother's remaining investments with surgical precision. By the end of the second year, Wes Sullivan, once a millionaire executive, was forced to sell his house just to cover basic expenses. "It's just bad luck," Wes told his wife, staring at yet another margin call notice. "The market's volatile." But it wasn't luck. It was Lawrence, operating through layers of shell companies and proxies, using his brother's own greed against him. Every time Gua thought he had found a safe investment, invisible hands would shift the market just enough to destroy him. Sai's destruction took longer, but proved more complete. Her company weathered the initial wave of patent lawsuits, but then strange things began to happen. Critical servers failed at crucial moments. Potential clients received anonymous tips about security vulnerabilities. Mysterious cyber attacks exposed just enough of her stolen technology to frighten away investors. "There's nothing linking these incidents," her security team reported. "It's like we're cursed." 3 years in, Sai's company collapsed under the weight of litigation and technical failures. The industry blacklist followed naturally. No one would hire an executive with her record of perceived incompetence. Herman's reputation died by 1,000 cuts. Evidence of his affairs, not only with Patricia, but with numerous others, leaked to the press in a steady drip. Each revelation proved more damaging than the last. His attempts at denial only worsened his standing, especially when time-stamped videos exposed his lies. "I assure you, these allegations are completely false," he would declare, only to have photographs surface the very next day, showing him in compromising situations. Exactly as he had denied Patricia's attempts to access Lawrence's fortune, his efforts met with constant failure. Every legal challenge was met with overwhelming evidence of her crimes. Her lawyers kept quitting as new conflicts of interest mysteriously emerged. Her attempts to sell stories to the press backfired when journalists received proof of her lies. But while his enemies floundered, Lawrence rebuilt, operating under various aliases and through multiple corporations. He constructed a new empire. His children thrived under his guidance. Mandy discovered her talent for cybersecurity, eventually becoming one of the field's rising stars. Bill excelled in corporate law, his understanding of business enhanced by watching his father's strategic brilliance. Both children understood the truth. Their father hadn't run away. He had removed them from a toxic environment. Lawrence maintained perfect operational security through it all. Not once in 6 years did his enemies discover his location or new identity. He watched them through surveillance networks, monitored their desperate attempts to recover, and methodically closed every door they tried to open. His new corporation grew quietly but steadily, absorbing vulnerable assets from his former enemies' failed ventures. Each acquisition was legal, logical, and completely untraceable to him. He wasn't just destroying their present. He was using their resources to build his future. The conspirators never realized they were watching their own assets being used against them. They were too busy surviving. What took increasingly desperate consulting jobs. Sandy moved to progressively smaller apartments. Herman found his reputation so toxic that even startups wouldn't touch him. Patricia's attempts to leverage her former social status met with embarrassing failures. Through it all, Lawrence worked with mechanical precision. Each move was calculated, each consequence measured. He didn't act from emotion. Revenge served as a mere byproduct of his meticulous design. Cold required patience, and planning. He was building something greater than destruction, a legacy that would prove betrayal never pays. For 6 years, he had been a ghost in the machine, an invisible hand of justice. His enemies looked over their shoulders, jumped at shadows, and slowly went mad, trying to figure out why everything they touched turned to ash. But Lawrence knew something they did not. This was just the prelude. The real endgame was still to come. The security cameras captured Patricia's arrival at 9:47 a.m. 6 years had not been kind to her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by off-the-rack wear that tried too hard to look expensive. Her once perfect hair showed streaks of gray, and her makeup could not quite hide the lines of bitterness etched into her face. She clutched the hand of a small boy, 5 years old, dark-haired, with Herman's distinctive nose. The child looked around with nervous curiosity as Patricia approached the front desk of the towering glass building that housed Neo Technologies, Lawrence's new empire, built from the ashes of his enemies' ambitions. "I need to see Lawrence Sullivan," Patricia announced, her voice carrying the same entitled tone she had used at the gala 6 years ago. "Tell him his wife is here." The receptionist, already briefed for this moment, replied with practiced neutrality, "I'm sorry, ma'am. There's no Lawrence Sullivan here." "Ex-wife," Patricia corrected, fumbling in her purse. "And I know he's here. This building, this company, it's all his. The boy, he needs to meet his father." Security cameras tracked their movement through the lobby. In his office 60 floors above, Lawrence watched the scene unfold on his monitors. DNA test results were already open on his tablet, tests he had arranged months ago through his surveillance network. The boy's genetic profile was displayed next to Herman's, a 99.9% match. "She's getting desperate," Chris observed from his position by the door. "Trying to claim paternity after 6 years. A faint smile graced Lawrence's lips. Herman had discovered the existence of the boy he had abandoned. Both of them, 3 years ago. His sources had confirmed that Herman had been evading child support through a network of shell companies. The trust Lawrence had established for the child, however, had been covering their essential needs, Chris added, though Patricia had been neglecting the boy despite that financial support. They possessed documentation of missed medical appointments and unexplained absences from school. Lawrence gave a slow nod. Every detail was unfolding precisely as he had foreseen. Patricia's desperate attempt to leverage a fabricated paternity claim was poised to become yet another instrument in his arsenal. "Sir," his assistant's voice emerged from the intercom. "Mrs. Black is becoming quite insistent." Lawrence pressed a button, and the security monitor displayed footage of Patricia growing increasingly agitated in the lobby below. "You tell Lawrence that Thomas is his son," she demanded, her voice rising sharply. "We were together that last night before he disappeared. He has responsibilities." The boy, Thomas, shrank away from his mother's outburst, his reaction betraying a weary familiarity with such scenes. Lawrence's surveillance had, indeed, documented dozens of similar incidents. Patricia's public meltdowns, her neglect of the child, her persistent attempts to use the boy as leverage against both Herman and himself. "Show them up," Lawrence commanded calmly. "It is time to conclude this particular charade." 10 minutes later, Patricia burst into his office, dragging a reluctant Thomas behind her. She froze at the sight of Lawrence seated behind his desk, looking scarcely a day older than when he had vanished. Success had preserved him impeccably, while failure had visibly ravaged her. "You've been here all along," she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. "Right under our noses." "Sit down, Patricia," Lawrence said, his tone utterly composed. "We need to discuss Thomas's future. Specifically, why you have been neglecting the child support payments Herman's sister, Ronnie, sends for him." Patricia's face drained of all color. How did you?" "I have been watching," Lawrence interjected, his gaze steady and penetrating. "I have watched you squander the support money on a succession of failed get-rich-quick schemes. I have documented every missed parent-teacher conference. At the conference, every skipped medical checkup was laid bare. Every instance you left him alone while you pursued dead-end leads in your quest to uncover my fortune." He turned his tablet around, revealing the DNA results to her. "Thomas isn't mine, Patricia. But unlike his actual father, I have ensured he has food, shelter, and education through the trust one established, the very same trust you have been misappropriating." "You can't prove it," she protested. "I can prove everything," Lawrence declared, pressing a button. Screens around the office illuminated with surveillance footage, financial records, and medical reports. "The question is, what happens next?" Thomas, forgotten by his mother in her shock, had gravitated toward a corner of the office where a familiar red dress hung in a frame. He stared at it with innocent curiosity as his mother's last desperate gambit crumbled around him. 1 week later, 5 separate town cars arrived at Nova Technologies' headquarters. Each carried a passenger who had received an invitation they could not refuse. Herman Black emerged first, his designer suit a cheap knockoff of his former wardrobe. Bankruptcy had left him desperate enough to walk into what he suspected was a trap. Gus Sullivan followed, wearing the uniform of the security company where he now worked as a middle manager. 6 years of orchestrated financial disasters had stripped him of everything except his bitter resentment. Sandy stepped out next, clutching a briefcase containing legal papers about her pending criminal charges. Her once confident stride had been replaced by nervous glances over her shoulder. Jared Norton arrived fourth, his immunity deal crumbling under the weight of new evidence. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by the haunted look of a man watching his carefully constructed lies unravel. Patricia entered last, still reeling from her failed paternity gambit. She had received custody papers that morning. Herman's sister, Ronnie, was suing for custody of Thomas, backed by extensive evidence of neglect. The lobby awaited them, silent and imposing. The directory listed their destination as Conference Room A, where a special board meeting was to be held. None of them noticed that each guard, each receptionist, and every person they passed had been specifically chosen for this day. Lawrence observed their approach on his monitors, with his inner circle standing beside him, each prepared for their designated roles. Mandy, now 24, had matured into a formidable cybersecurity expert. Her tablets displayed years of surveillance data detailing her mother's activities. Bill, freshly graduated from law school, carried files documenting every facet of Gwa's criminal endeavors. His uncle's betrayal had profoundly shaped his understanding of corporate law. Brooke, recently promoted to chief operating officer, held evidence of SY's corporate espionage, every stolen patent, every clandestine deal, every concealed transaction. Chris maintained his position by the door, ready to present proof of Herman's multiple betrayals. Claudia Martinez, an extraordinary corporate counsel, stood prepared with comprehensive documentation of their collective conspiracy. The conspirators entered the conference room separately, each attempting to avoid eye contact with the others. The room's design was deliberate, a long table with high-backed chairs facing a massive screen that remained dark. "Please be seated," a familiar voice commanded from hidden speakers. The screen illuminated, displaying Lawrence in his office, but before anyone could react, the conference room doors opened, and Lawrence himself walked in, the real Lawrence. The screen had been a misdirection, a final reminder of how easily they had been manipulated. 6 years, he said, taking his place at the head of the table. 6 years of watching you destroy yourselves with your own greed and stupidity. You bastard. Herman started to rise, but Chris's hand on his shoulder forced him back down. Interesting choice of words, Herman, Lawrence replied, especially given how you abandoned your own son. Patricia flinched. Was security guard uniform suddenly feeling too tight, while SY's fingers trembled on her briefcase? Today isn't about revenge, Lawrence continued. It is about justice, about consequences, about truth. He gave a nod to his team. Mandy stepped forward first, her tablet projecting onto the screen. "Mother," she began, "would you like to explain these recordings, the ones that show how you deliberately sabotaged my relationship with Dad?" Patricia's face drained of color as her own voice filled the room, carefully orchestrating conflicts, manipulating events, poisoning her children against their father. Bill followed with his presentation. "Uncle Gua, the federal authorities are very interested in these transaction records, but they are especially interested in what you did with the money." One by one, they presented their evidence. Brooke exposed Cy's corporate espionage, including emails proving she had stolen patents before they were even filed. Chris detailed Herman's betrayals, complete with surveillance footage of meetings with competitors. Claudia presented proof of their collective conspiracy, revealing how each person's actions connected to create a complete picture of betrayal. But it was Lawrence's final revelation that shattered their last hopes. "Your immunity deal, Jared," he said, turning to Norton. "Did you really think I wouldn't find the evidence you held back? The real records of your involvement?" Norton's face went ashen. His immunity deal had been based on full disclosure. The evidence Lawrence now displayed proved he had lied to federal investigators. The justice Lawrence had orchestrated fell like dominoes, each piece triggering the next with mechanical precision. Herman was the first to break. When faced with Chris's evidence of his corporate fraud, not just the affair with Patricia, but years of selling company secrets, his facade crumbled. "I want to make a deal," he blurted out, earning disgusted looks from his co-conspirators. "The time for deals is over," Lawrence replied. "Federal agents are already processing your involvement in industrial espionage. The evidence has been verified by 3 independent sources." Gua attempted an alternative strategy. "Brother, please. You forfeited the right to call me brother when you elected to steal from your own family," Lawrence interjected sharply. "Nevertheless, the district attorney is prepared to negotiate a plea agreement in exchange for your comprehensive testimony." Gua's posture slumped in defeat. The security guard uniform he wore abruptly felt like a premonition of his future prison attire. Within the hour, he had signed a complete confession, meticulously recounting every fraudulent project and every dollar embezzled. Cy's downfall unfolded with even greater drama. As Brooke systematically unveiled proof of her corporate espionage, her professional network was concurrently receiving exhaustive documentation of her crimes. By sunset, she would find herself ostracized from every prominent technology firm in the nation. "You cannot do this," she murmured, though the protest resonated with emptiness even to herself. "I already have," Lawrence responded. "Your new enterprise's assets are being confiscated as we speak. The patents you misappropriated are being restored to their legitimate owner, Jared Norton." Jared Norton's immunity agreement disintegrated under the burden of freshly uncovered evidence. His endeavor to betray his accomplices had spectacularly misfired. Lawrence had been aware of his concealed records all along, biding his time for the optimal moment to reveal them. "The federal prosecutors have taken a special interest in the evidence you selectively omitted to disclose," Lawrence informed him. "Immunity arrangements necessitate complete transparency, Jared. You ought to have scrutinized the fine print. Yet it was Patricia's destiny that emerged as the most poetically just. While the others confronted their legal reckonings, she witnessed her final assertions to Lauren Prince's fortune dissolve into nothingness. Each endeavor she had made over the preceding 6 years to access his riches was laid bare as the frantic, covetous ploys they truly were. The boy, she ventured one final time. Thomas requires stability. Lawrence cut in, which is precisely why I am endorsing Ronnie's petition for custody. Herman's sister has demonstrated herself to be the sole adult in his life who genuinely has his best interests at heart. With swift efficiency, the resolution moved forward. Herman was led away by federal agents, his corporate fraud charges carrying a minimum 10-year sentence. Was signed his plea deal, accepting a lesser sentence in exchange for his testimony. Sandy watched helplessly as her industry contacts abandoned her, her reputation destroyed beyond repair. Jared's immunity deal was officially revoked, with multiple indictments following within hours. Patricia lost her final appeal for Lawrence's assets, her claims dismissed with prejudice. But Lawrence was not finished. As his enemies faced their fates, he turned his attention to the innocent caught in their web. Thomas, Herman's abandoned son, was placed in Ron's custody. Lawrence ensured the boy would have everything he needed: education, support, and, most importantly, stability. The trust he had established would guarantee that Thomas never suffered for his parents' sins. "Your actions forced me to destroy your world," Lawrence told the assembled conspirators. "But unlike you, I protect the innocent. Thomas will have every opportunity you tried to steal from my own children." As security led them away, Lawrence stood at his office window, watching the sun set over his rebuilt empire. Behind him hung the red dress that had started it all, no longer a symbol of betrayal, but a reminder of justice served. 1 year later, Lawrence sat in that same office, surveying what his revenge had built. The company had grown stronger than ever. Mandy headed the cybersecurity division, her insight shaped by watching her father's strategic brilliance. Bill ran the legal department, his understanding of corporate law deepened by documenting his uncle's crimes. Brooks served as COO, her loyalty rewarded with the position she had earned. Chris directed global security operations, his protectiveness extending to the entire Sullivan empire. Claudia's position as chief corporate counsel was untouchable, her handling of the conspirators' downfall legendary in corporate circles. In the legal sphere, meanwhile, the conspirators lived with the consequences of their actions. Herman served his sentence in federal prison. His conviction for corporate fraud ensured he would never work in business again. His attempts to appeal were unsuccessful, with each rejection citing the overwhelming evidence against him. He worked night shifts as a security guard. His plea bargain left him just enough freedom to survive, but not enough to prosper. His former wealth and status existed only in bitter memories. Sandy lived in a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, blacklisted from the corporate world she had once navigated with such confidence. Her attempts to rebuild her reputation were met with closed doors and turned backs. Jared faced multiple indictments as his legal troubles mounted, with further evidence of his deception coming to light. The collapse of his immunity agreement triggered a domino effect of legal consequences. Patricia, her social standing destroyed, worked as a retail clerk in a mall department store. Her former friends crossed the street to avoid her. Her attempts to restore her place in society failed repeatedly. Her name had become synonymous with betrayal in San Francisco's elite circles. The red dress hung in Lawrence's office, framed behind bulletproof glass, a reminder that justice, properly served, required not only vengeance but wisdom. His new wife, Amanda Troy, who had helped expose the financial threads of the conspiracy, understood its significance. Their blended family, which included Thomas, whom Lawrence mentored from a careful distance, represented his true victory. Lawrence had learned that revenge was not merely about punishment. It was about protecting the innocent and ensuring karma found its true targets. As he watched his family and loyal friends celebrating the company's anniversary, he understood that the best revenge was not simply destroying his enemies, but building something stronger from the ashes of their betrayal. The power of a patient, calculated response to treachery had proven absolute. Every character's fate felt earned. Every resolution was complete. Every loyalty was rewarded. Justice, served cold, was nevertheless served completely. It had prevailed. Epilogue. Patricia Black, formerly Sullivan, stared at her reflection in the employee bathroom mirror of Carson's department store. At 52, the careful maintenance of her appearance had become an obsession, a desperate attempt to cling to her former glory. The employee discount barely covered her basic cosmetics, and her monthly paycheck as a sales clerk could not sustain even a fraction of her former lifestyle. Her studio apartment, a far cry from the Sullivan mansion, sat above a Chinese restaurant in a forgotten corner of San Francisco. The constant smell of cooking oil served as a daily reminder of her fall. Her wedding rings, both from Lawrence and from her brief, disastrous marriage to Herman, had been sold years ago to cover legal fees. Every attempt to rebuild her social standing had failed spectacularly. 3 charity organizations had publicly rejected her volunteer applications. Former friends blocked her calls and social media accounts. Country clubs cited membership restrictions when she attempted to join. Even her mother's bridge club had quietly asked her not to attend their annual fundraiser. Her relationship with Thomas, now 11, existed solely through court-mandated, supervised visits twice a month. Ronnie, Herman's sister, had won full custody 5 years ago, backed by Lawrence's meticulous documentation of Patricia's neglect. The trust Lawrence had established ensured Thomas attended the best schools and had every opportunities Patricia could no longer pretend to provide. Herman Black's fate proved equally fitting. Federal prison Camp Montgomery had stripped away his arrogance along with his freedom. His 7-year sentence, reduced from 10 for cooperation, offered ample time to reflect on his choices. His cellmate, ironically, was a former hedge fund manager who had lost everything to one of Herman's schemes. Lawrence's market corrections. The consequences of their betrayal continued to unfold. Patricia's attempts to write a tell-all book were shut down by ironclad non-disclosure agreements. Herman's appeals were rejected with increasing finality. Their joint assets had been seized and liquidated. Their reputations were so thoroughly destroyed that even their failures made no news. Lawrence's new headquarters dominated the San Francisco skyline, a testament to patient revenge and calculated reconstruction. The Nova Technology logo gleamed against the morning sun while inside. The fruits of loyalty flourished. Mandy Sullivan, now strategic director of cybersecurity, had transformed her father's security protocols into an industry standard. Her department's innovations, born from watching Lawrence's methodical dismantling of his enemies, regularly set new benchmarks in digital protection. At 29, industry publications already called her the next generation of security evolution. Bill Sullivan's legal department had become legendary for its precision. His understanding of corporate law, shaped by documenting his uncle's downfall, made him uniquely qualified to protect the company's interests. His recent marriage to the daughter of a Supreme Court justice had added another layer of influence to the Sullivan legacy. Brooks' promotion to chief operating officer proved Lawrence's eye for talent. Her management style, learned from years of watching him operate, combined efficiency with strategic insight. The board's unanimous support of her leadership reflected the company's strongest quarter in history. Chris expanded global security into an independent subsidiary, providing specialized services to select clients. His loyalty to Lawrence had been rewarded with partial ownership of the new venture, though he still personally oversaw the Sullivan family security. Claudia Martinez's position as chief corporate counsel came with a corner office and a view of the Bay. Her handling of corporate affairs demonstrated the same meticulous attention to detail that had characterized her entire career, ensuring the company's legal standing remained unassailable in every jurisdiction. The conspirators' downfall had become a case study at leading law schools, though the full details remained sealed. Lawrence's marriage to Amanda Troy brought more than personal happiness. It united 2 powerful families with complementary strengths. Her financial expertise had helped trace the conspiracy's money trails, and her understanding of loss, having lost her first husband to the conspirators' machinations, gave her unique insight into Lawrence's motivations. Their blended family thrived. Amanda's teenage daughters excelled under Mandy's mentorship. Thomas, though not officially part of the family, received carefully structured guidance. The Sullivan name once again represented integrity and innovation. Their regular family dinners became a symbol of victory over betrayal. The company's success exceeded even Lawrence's calculations. Nova Technologies absorbed key markets from competitors. Strategic acquisitions strengthened their global position. Innovation patents secured their technological lead. Stock values tripled under the new leadership. Lawrence maintained discreet surveillance on his former enemies, not from fear or obsession, but as a matter of principle. Their continuing struggles served as data points in his understanding of justice. Patricia's attempts at redemption failed. Interviews for better positions rejected, applications for loans unsuccessful, efforts to contact Thomas outside approved visits declined, submissions to society magazines about her imprisonment declined, requests for parole failed, attempts to publish business insights rejected, appeals for sentence reduction denied. Growing isolation enveloped her as former contacts abandoned her. The redress, still framed in Lawrence's office, had acquired almost mythical status among employees. New hires learned quickly not to ask about it directly, but its story, carefully curated versions of it, circulated as a warning about betrayal and a testament to loyalty. Lawrence's revenge hadn't merely been about punishment. It had become an enduring lesson in consequences. He had just vanquished his adversaries, and from their downfall, he constructed something far greater. A corporate culture that prized loyalty above all else. A family strengthened by overcoming betrayal, a legacy secured for generations, and a reputation for patient, absolute justice. Unaware of his full connection to these events, Thomas flourished under Ronnie's care. The trust Lawrence had established ensured that Thomas would have every opportunity to build his own legacy, untainted by the choices of his parents. In the end, Lawrence's patient vengeance had transformed betrayal into the foundation stones of a stronger future. The conspirator's fate served as a perpetual reminder. Karma arrives not as swift lightning, but as the inevitable tide, rising slowly yet absolutely, drowning those who mistake patience for weakness. The Sullivan name endured, stronger than ever, while those who had sought to destroy it lived on as cautionary tales. Their falls were as complete as their betrayals had been profound. Lawrence kept only one photograph from his previous marriage, not out of sentiment, but for perspective. It depicted Patricia in the red dress at the gala, celebrating what she believed was her triumph. Beside it, quarterly reports documented Nova Technologies' continuing dominance. Each success was another stone in the edifice built from the destruction of his enemies. Lawrence had learned that perfect revenge was not merely about destroying one's foes. It was about using their ruin to build something they could never taint, never touch, and never comprehend. A legacy of justice, served cold, complete, and without regret. This is where our story concludes. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.